Hi, this is Brad Straley with Jacksonville For Life. Appreciate you listening today. With us is Stephen Ertelt, founder and editor of LifeNews.com. Stephen, thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, it is more than our pleasure. Tell us about Life News.
Absolutely. Well, LifeNews.com is a pro-life news service. We cover international pro-life issues from across the country and around the world. We mostly cover the traditional set of pro-life issues, which constitute abortion, infanticide, euthanasia, end-of-life issues, as well as bioethics concerns, things like human cloning, embryonic stem cell research, and others. Basically, where human life is abrogated or destroyed, we're concerned with that and protecting the right to life of unborn children. We've been around since 1992, so for more than 2 decades, we've been covering pro-life topics. And just providing information, the latest news and information to millions of pro-life people around the world.
Wow, 1992. Now, why did you start Life News?
Well, that's a great question. Obviously, as a pro-life activist, I and millions of other pro-life people have been concerned about the bias and misinformation in the mainstream media. Obviously, the media certainly has a pro-abortion vantage point when it comes to pro-life topics. And they certainly don't report accurately or fairly on that, if they even report anything at all on certain subjects. And so we really wanted to create a news service that would provide accurate, timely information to people so they could be educated, they could be informed, and more importantly, so they could take action on that. And so we put that together. We've grown ever since and just been very blessed to be able to be a conduit for the latest information for pro-life folks.
And you guys have a blessing. Personally, I used to get it back and save them on my floppy disk, so it shows how long that I personally have been under the email subscription. As a news agency, how do you find this? I mean, like you said, we don't see it on mainstream media. We don't read about it. We don't hear about it. We don't see it. How do you gather all this and get this out Monday through Friday, every day, every week?
Well, it's a labor of love, but, honestly, we've really developed a great network, working very closely with pro-life organizations, state by state, across the country, even international pro-life groups, because now there are so many battles on a worldwide level. For example, in Ireland, Irish pro-life advocates are facing a very staunch campaign from pro-abortion forces to legalize abortion there. They've protected life from their founding via their constitution. And so, not only here in the United States are we facing pro-life battles, but across the world. And so we've worked very closely with pro-life groups to gather information, to get quotes, to get information that we can get out there to people. So it's a diligent work, and it's just a blessing for us. We just enjoy helping pro-life organizations and helping keep people informed. So we work day in and day out to get the information, and honestly, there's so much happening. There are so many battles on all the fronts, and as I described, it's not just abortion, it's also end-of-life issues. We're facing major battles against euthanasia, against rationing of health care, against assisted suicide, and so there are so many battles to fight. Really, now we're at a point of not just looking for information. It's a matter of triaging what's out there because there's so much happening. We try to figure out a way to condense that into a way that's easy for pro-life people to read and take a look at.
Yeah, it is a blessing for us lay people. You mentioned rationing healthcare, and I wanted to ask your opinion on the proposed tax bill that's going to do something to our socialized medicine that we call Obamacare.
Well, when Obamacare first came out, pro-life organizations were really united. Obviously, they were united on the taxpayer funding of abortion component of Obamacare and, sending millions of dollars more than we already do now to Planned Parenthood. But end-of-life concerns were certainly there. And this is the latest battle. And it wasn't just Terry Schiavo. It's expanded and it's moved beyond that. And what we saw after Obamacare was passed was we literally ran at Life News a number of stories about people in all sorts of situations where their children were losing their health care or where their expenses were going up. The cost of health care has continued to increase. And even though it's called the, quote, Affordable Care Act, we've seen health care premiums not only for just average Americans, but especially for elderly, for disabled people and whatnot. We've seen those premiums skyrocket. So even if they have health care, they can't afford it. and it's taken out so much of their money, they've really run into problems making ends meet. And so the rationing issue is certainly there. And when you have states like Oregon and California that have passed assisted suicide, where the health insurance companies or the state government is telling people, yeah, we'll gladly pay for your assisted suicide drugs, we won't pay for medical treatment or care that you so desperately need if you have cancer or some other condition. That's a problem. That's a real problem. And that's the road we're going down. We've seen that in Europe already. We know those countries that have socialized medicine, where they supposedly have free health care, have very, very, very long waiting lines. I have family in Canada, for example, that for routine surgical procedures that they need, that they would be able to get quickly here in the United States, they're waiting months and sometimes even years for those. That exacerbates their condition. Their health deteriorates to the point that some people, frankly, are dying because they're not getting the health care they need. So it's taking us down a road that other countries have already gone down. That's problematic, and now we're seeing those terrible effects here in the United States.
Yeah, and lifenews.com and a handful of others are the only ones that are, bringing this to attention. Like you said, we don't see this in the mainstream media, and unfortunately, a lot of Americans are just plain lazy to take a look at how socialized medicine has worked, or in most cases not worked, in other countries.
Well, and what's funny is, with all the problems associated with Obamacare, obviously, Republicans in Congress are trying to fix that and do what they can. Unfortunately, a repeal hasn't worked out, so they're trying to mitigate the damage. But it's interesting that the other side, which has been pushing euthanasia and assisted suicide, they want to move to a single-payer system, which, of course, would be even worse. So, we just continue to expose all that we can at Life News, the battles that people are facing, especially now. Hospitals and doctors doing things like putting DNR orders into patients' files. That's a problem where they refuse to provide medical treatment and then refuse to provide a transfer to another medical facility where a patient or their family, as their advocate, can get treatment for that patient. These are battles. It wasn't just Terry Schiavo, like I said. That was just the beginning. That was the linchpin. And now it seems every week at Life News we're reporting on somebody or someone facing a problem like that, or another state that's trying to push assisted suicide. So these battles continue day in and day out, and hopefully people will look to Life News to keep informed.
Yes. Just wanted to mention that we were proud to have one of our past shows, one of your contributing bloggers, Melissa Ohden.
That's right.
Yeah, she that was her story that she shared. Of course, we wanted to have her share that after we had an opportunity to read her book was amazing.
She's an amazing woman, and God certainly has blessed her. Obviously, God saved her from an abortion. It's an amazing story. If listeners haven't had a chance to read her story, go to Life News and just search Melissa Ohden and just read her story and just see how she's been amazingly blessed, not only to survive an abortion, but now to speak out on behalf of life and to speak out on behalf of unborn children. And what's interesting is since her story came about, and obviously she survived an abortion in the 1970s, it's been a long time since then, and so amazingly, she's been able to find other people who have survived abortions as well and have helped them share their story across the world with others, and just to be an advocate for life. So it's amazing. She's an incredible woman, and we are very blessed to have her at Life News. She writes frequent articles on pro-life topics and issues, and they're a great read, so we encourage people to come by and take a look.
Yeah, most definitely. Now, are you guys affiliated with any political party or church denomination or organization?
No, we're an independent pro-life news outfit. Life News is not affiliated with any organization or church or political group. Many of us who work here are Christians, and, that's a heartfelt belief for us. But, frankly, we've had articles on people who may take a very different view than we do on other issues, but are still pro-life. We've had articles on pro-life atheists or pro-life Democrats, people who are coming from different and varied backgrounds, but we're united on the fact that abortion kills unborn children. It takes the life of a unique human being who ought to be protected. And that's the neat thing about the pro-life movement is it's very ecumenical. It's not a political movement. And so we're able to bring people together from all sorts of different backgrounds who come together to say, you know what? as Thomas Jefferson once said, government ought to care about people. That ought to be the first order of business for government, is protecting life. And so we're united on that. So it's been a lot of fun to meet people from various backgrounds over the years who say, you know what, we may disagree on religion or politics or whatever, but we're united on this pro-life issue. And that's been a lot of fun to meet those folks and talk about how we can work together.
Yeah, it must be a lot of fun because you've been doing this for quite a while.
Yeah, it's been great, and I'm always energized every day because there are so many ways that pro-life people can get involved, and I'm constantly asked how you can be a part of this pro-life movement, and there's so many different pro-life groups working in different areas together for life, whether that's being in Congress or the state legislatures and advocating for life on that level, or being in front of an abortion clinic to pray or offer sidewalk counseling and help and information, working at pregnancy centers or helping young people with abstinence and encouraging them to make good choices. There's so many great ways for pro-life people to be involved today. Just look and you're going to find a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's one of the things that personally drew me to the pro-life movement was all the opportunities that are out there. And, if someone that cannot volunteer time, they can certainly volunteer a donation to one of these fine organizations. I did want to ask, I know when you started, you were basically, what was a website, or was it the email, or how did
we were first email, I guess, before Al Gore invented the internet, right?
Yeah, I didn't want to bring that up, but I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah, we started out on email, and we were email only. The web didn't exist in the early 1990s, so we just compiled all the news that we could find, put that in an email format. And we were compiling mostly news from the mainstream media, and we got to the point that we realized, we're really doing the pro-life movement a disservice. Because here's this news reporting that we were compiling from mainstream media outlets, and it was wrong. It just wasn't factual. You'd read the story, and there'd maybe be 2 or 3 quotes from Planned Parenthood or somebody on the pro-abortion side. You might, if you're lucky, get one decent quote, and they may even be misquoted from a pro-life group. And so we just felt we weren't doing a good service. So in the early 2000s, we switched up from just compiling news and sending that out by email to putting the website together, putting together an actual original news reporting website. And that's where we're at today, which is actually providing original hard news reporting, opinion, information that people are writing opinion stories, feature articles that are trying to change hearts and minds on the abortion issue. So we wanted to do it right the first time, report it right, get good opinion and analysis from pro-life organizations, pro-life experts in the field. And that's where Life News is at now, is original news reporting supplemented with good opinion, good analysis from pro-life leaders.
Great. This is Brian Strelly with the Jacksonville For Life, and you're listening today with Stephen Ertelt, founder and editor of LifeNews.com. Do not go away. We'll be right back.
This is Jim Radloff with Embrace Life Ministries. If you'd like to get involved in pro-life ministry, please give us a call at 237-7572. Do what you can to help save babies in Jacksonville.
Hi, this is Brian Strelly with Jacksonville For Life. Today we're listening conversation with Stephen Ertelt, founder and editor of LifeNews.com. We were speaking earlier about how Life News has grown and changed over the years. We have the email now, we have the web. What other ways can listeners follow LifeNews.com?
Absolutely. Well, social media is the main thing. And, honestly, that's the greatest way for pro-life people to be involved because it counters the mainstream media. When you're on social media and you're sharing pro-life news and information, obviously, although we faced a little bit of censorship recently, but generally that's a pretty easy way for people to get the word out and share information with others. And we've worked really hard to build up a following on different social media outlets. So you can go to Facebook. You can just look up lifenews.com on Facebook. We've got almost 1 million people that we're networking with there. Same thing on Twitter. Just look us up on Twitter. Our username is at LifeNewsHQ, LifeNewsHQ on Twitter. Feel free to follow us, and you'll get a sampling. You actually get every single one of the news stories that we put out every single day, as well as some best ofs from the past and other supplemental information and news stories. And so we try to get on social media. We're on Pinterest. You can find us there, on Instagram as well. So these are great places that people can go. They can share pictures. They can share news stories. They can share information with others. So follow us on one of those social media outlets and be connected.
Great. For 2017, we had the presidential election. 2016, we had the pro-life president, maybe more pro-life than some people expected. You took over after 8 years of a pro-abortion president. Where do you see America's opinion on abortion now, and where do you think we're going for 2018?
Well, looking back, obviously last year, 2016, at the presidential election, there were a lot of pro-life people who had real, genuine concerns about Donald Trump. His character was not exactly what we really would want it to be. He had done and said some things that I think many of us would be ashamed of if we had. And there were questions about him on pro-life issues. He had recently converted, so he said, to the pro-life position. He had said he would do things as president, but he really didn't have a track record. He had not been in Congress to vote on pro-life issues. He hadn't been a governor to sign any bills. He hadn't done anything really to push the pro-life position, but he said, hey, I'll do X, Y, and Z, and so a lot of people voted for him, based on those promises, and certainly Hillary Clinton wasn't going to be a friend. We obviously knew that. But President Trump has really done a good job, and it started in January. I think a lot of people were very pleased with his executive order right away, just days after he took office, to reinstate the Mexico City policy that President Ronald Reagan had put into place. And obviously that defunds Planned Parenthood on an international level and other pro-abortion groups as well. Which is something he can do. He can't defund Planned Parenthood here in the United States, but he can make sure our tax dollars don't go overseas to fund Planned Parenthood. And, that was a great way to really begin his presidency. He has done other things in addition to that, defunding the UNFPA, which many of us understand that has promoted abortion and population control worldwide, especially with the one-child and now two-child policy in China. So that was another great move. He's overturned the Obama abortion mandate. Everybody on the who's listening in ought to be very familiar with the battles by people like Little Sisters of the Poor or Hobby Lobby or other Christian organizations or businesses to not be forced to fund abortions in their healthcare plans. And so overturning that was a huge step in protecting the consciences of pro-life people. So he's done a number of great things. I think pro-lifers really have been very pleased with where he's come and what he's done so far. And obviously there's a lot to do down the road. He's had one appointment to the U.S. Supreme Court, and I think everybody was very receptive to Neil Gorsuch, and we're very hopeful that he will rule on pro-life issues on our side. And obviously, we hope there's additional appointments. We still have to combat this pro-abortion majority on the Supreme Court to have any chance of overturning Roe versus Wade and protecting unborn children under law. So there's a lot of battles to come. Planned Parenthood funding was probably the other biggest battle this year. Sadly, we had a few Republicans in the Senate who would not go along with that. And so, next year we have an election year. Hopefully we can replace some of those guys, get some more pro-life votes there in the Senate, and defund Planned Parenthood. So looking forward to 2018, those are our big battles, is what more can we do on the presidential level, and can we replace people to get that vote in the Senate? So we'll see what happens.
That's right. So right now on the Supreme Court, the pro-aborts are winning 5-4. That's your opinion as well?
Yeah, that's right, because, even though there's 5 Republicans on there, obviously Anthony Kennedy is not pro-life, and he's voted to uphold Roe. He's voted, in fact, most recently in the case this year, the whole women's health case, where you've got a Texas law that was literally trying to protect women's health. And this is the irony of it, is you have abortion advocates say, oh, well, we want to protect women's health and lives, and we're all about women. Well, here you pass a law in Texas to hold them accountable and say, hey, if you're going to run an abortion clinic, you ought to at least protect women's health and make sure that they are protected under law. And obviously the Planned Parenthood and the abortion advocates said, we don't really care about women's health. We're going to file suit, take that to the Supreme Court, and just make sure we can do abortions without regard to women. And we lost that case. Anthony Kennedy was on the other side on that one. So he's definitely not pro-life. We have 4 members of the court that we think will vote to overturn Roe and protect unborn babies. And so hopefully when that day comes, we've got 4. But obviously you need to have 5 to do that. So there's still a big battle to replace one or more of those pro-abortion justices with somebody who is not on the other side.
So in your opinion, Stephen, how important is it for us to elect pro-life senators in 2018?
Well, in 2018, it's a big deal because, that's where the battle's at. We were able to get Neil Gorsuch through, and that was a good victory for the pro-life movement, but you never know. And with the other side, Neil Gorsuch was replacing in Antonin Scalia, a very, very prominent pro-life justice. And sometimes there's this feeling that, well, if somebody, passes away from the Supreme Court as Justice Scalia did, that, you kind of can fill their seat with somebody similar. So some people may have kind of given that nomination a pass. There are a few senators who may have gone along with it just because it was replacing somebody like that. But on a battle to shift the Supreme Court from an ideological position on one side to the other, I think we're going to face a much tougher battle. So when it comes to replacing, somebody on the pro-abortion side who's been there a long time, a Breyer or a Ginsburg or somebody like that who's been deciding in favor of abortion for decades, I think we're going to face a much tougher battle. So hopefully we have that opportunity to do that sometime before President Trump is out of office and maybe a pro-abortion candidate takes his place. But those battles will be huge. They'll be very significant. So every pro-life person is going to need to be involved and speak up and make their voice heard.
That's right. One more thing for us to pray about. I know you're busy with the entire world and all 50 states and the District of Columbia. In your opinion, how is the state of Florida doing compared to other states?
Well, Florida has been trying to pass as many laws as they can. They've got a law right now, this 24-hour waiting period that's currently in court. And, that's the problem is we do all this work to elect legislators and a pro-life governor and what have you and pass these laws only to see many of them go to court and sometimes not be enforced. So, that's the big thing here is, what will happen with that court and will we be able to uphold that law and keep it in place? So definitely, Florida continues to work just like other states to try and pass these laws. I know in Florida we've had a couple of cases where abortion clinics have been closed, and so I know there's a lot of efforts to be outside the clinics and to pray and offer women the abortion alternatives that they can. So just encourage everybody there to keep on plugging away. I tell people all the time that even though from a legal sense it may seem like it'll take a long time to overturn Roe and, ban abortions under law, there's still things people can do to save lives today. So, get involved in your pregnancy center, get involved in 40 Days for Life, the campaign that prays in front of the abortion clinics, because those, centers and those campaigns are saving lives today. Even though we can't pass laws right now to protect every baby, we can still save lives today. So definitely I want to encourage people to do that.
You're right about that, Stephen. How does LifeNews.com get funded to do all this that you've been doing over the decades?
Well, it's a combination of advertising, mostly from pro-life or different Christian organizations, as well as donations from readers. And so anybody who's reading Life News, we definitely appreciate your support. It's a real blessing. I'm always asked, hey, if I send you $5, does that matter? And it really does. Any amount is always helpful. So if anybody would like to donate, we truly are appreciative of that. You don't have to send big donations. In fact, we don't get very many big donations. It's really just good-hearted readers who appreciate getting the facts, getting news they don't get from the mainstream media that send us money, and we're so blessed to receive that.
Great. Now, if someone's listening and they do want to make a donation or they do want to find out more information about lifenews.com, how can they reach you?
Really just go to the website, lifenews.com. Everything you need is there, whether it's the latest news, a donation button, connecting with us on social media, signing up for our daily news report. Anything that you need, just go to lifenews.com. You can also send us an email if you have questions or need information. Maybe you're dealing with a pro-life topic and you need some help and need more information on it. Feel free to just drop us an email and we'd be happy to help you. So lifenews.com, connect with us anytime, and we're always there to be a resource for people.
Great. Now, are you still speaking at the National Right to Life conventions? And the reason I ask is I took my wife to the one in Jacksonville and heard when you gave that speech or that topic.
I sure am, and I actually speak around the country. If there are any people listening who have a pro-life organization or a church or some other group that's looking for a pro-life speaker, just go to lifenews.com and drop us an email. We try to keep our rates very reasonable. We understand pro-life people don't have a lot of money, so I totally get that, and we want to keep it reasonable for folks. But I love to speak to pro-life groups and to people because it encourages me, and that's always great. It's fun to do things online and talk about the internet and how we can reach millions of people through the internet, and that's a lot of fun. But there's still no substitute for just getting together in person and talking to people and just energizing each other for advocating for life. So I love to do that and always enjoy speaking to groups and connecting with local pro-lifers.
That is fantastic. Well, Stephen, I hate to say it, but we're already out of time. I can't thank you enough for joining us today and for all you do to promote a culture of life. We like to thank the station for being faithful to his word and this opportunity today. Also like to thank you for listening. For more information about local pro-life events, please visit us at jacksonvilleforlife.org. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, do something, save babies in Jacksonville.